All right, so this video is just a tutorial for a tool that I'm going to show you how to use in class, but I'm only going to show you how to use it briefly. We're not going to take a whole day doing this. But if you forget how to do it, this video will remind you how to use this tool. And this is not a tool that you'll use on quizzes or tests or anything like that to do geometry or anything. It's for you to figure out if you know what your grade is throughout the quarter. This is something you can calculate completely on your own. You don't need to ask me for the grade. It's not some magic number that I pull out of thin air. It is literally this calculation when I'm trying to figure out what your average is throughout the quarter. So I'm just going to go through the different components of what your grade is made up of first, and then I'll show you how to use this tool. So remember that your grade is just a combination of three different categories. 10% of your grade comes from homework. All right, so of all the homework that you do, I bundle up those numbers, I calculate the average of your homework, and that number becomes 10% of your grade, which is why you'll see that show up right here in your overall grade calculation. The average of your homework assignments is 10% of your grade. Another 10% of your grade is your classwork grade. So this is things like Desmos activities that we do in class, or exit tickets that you submit, Google Forms, things like that. If I ever ask you to watch an Edpuzzle video to complete notes before coming to class, that goes into this category. The average of those grades is another 10% of your grade. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky because the final 80% is quizzes and tests. And that is any time that we stop what we're doing in a day to take a quiz or take a test. The tricky thing about this is that some quizzes are worth more than others. So this is why we have to be careful when we calculate this average, that we don't make a mistake in figuring out what the real average of your scores is at any point. So whenever I'm putting numbers in, I'm going based off of the scores that I get in Google Classroom. So if you look at Google Classroom and you go to your classwork page, you'll see that next to every assignment is a classification for what type of assignment that is. So this assignment that says Delta Math 2 Triangle Congruence Proofs, that is a quarter 3 homework assignment. Whatever I get on that assignment, I'm going to put into this table. So let's say that I do the assignment and I get a 100% on the assignment. I'm going to see, don't need to be in here, I'm going to see that I got a 1 out of 1 on that assignment. So what I'll do is I'll go into my table, and for homework, I'm going to put a 1 in the first column because I got a 1 out of 1 on that first assignment. Now, if I didn't get a 1 and I got a 0, then I'd put a 0 there. If I got a 0.5, which is possible on these assignments, then I'll put a 0.5 there. Put whatever grade you get on that assignment into that box. All right, so let's say that I got a 0.5. Then let's go over to classwork. You don't have any classwork assignments yet, but you're going to get one in your next class. So let's say that you participate, you do what you're supposed to do during the day, and you get a 1 out of 1 on your classwork. I'm going to go back into the table. I'm going to give myself a 1 for the first classwork assignment. Quizzes and tests is where we have to be careful because you'll notice there are two categories here. This column is for the numerator of your quiz and test scores. And over here is where you'll put your denominators. We have to keep those separate. So your numerator score of whatever you get on any quiz goes in that box. So if I take a look at what we've done so far, we did submit an end of week form that was a quiz or a test. So this is the category I'm looking at. And let's say I got an 8 out of 10 on this past weekend's quiz or test. I'm going to go into this table. My numerator is an 8. My denominator is a 10. All right, so what you'll notice is that down here at the bottom, this number will kick into gear once you've got all of these values filled in. And it's going to tell you what your grade is. That grade is the average of your homework assignments plus the average of your classwork assignments plus the average of the numerators divided by the average of the denominators times 8, because that category counts 8 times as much as the other categories do. And all of that gets divided by 10 to figure out the overall percentage. So if this is what I've done so far, if I got an 8 out of 10 on the only test that we took, a 1 out of 1 on my homework or on my classwork, but I got a 50% on the one homework assignment I've been given, and my current grade is a 0.79 or a 79% right now. Now you'll be able to see that grade change if you change these numbers. If I had gotten a 9 on that end of week form, then my grade is a 87 right now. If I got a perfect score on that end of week form, My grade's a 95 right now. So you can see that without a lot of grades in the system here, this number is pretty volatile. Now let's say we take a quarterly assessment and I get a 41 out of 50 on that quarterly assessment. That number is going to be factored in and my average will change. And every time you put in a homework, a 1 and a 0, and then let's say you do 3 homeworks in a row, will go into this score. And all you have to do is keep adjusting this table every time you do an assignment, adjust the table, and this number here will tell you what your current grade is. So as long as you've put in every single assignment that you see that starts with a Q3 and has the right category associated with it, this number will be a perfectly accurate representation of your current grade in the class. This final column here just says number of assignments. You don't have to use that column if you don't want to, but if you wanted to number that column just to see how many homeworks you've had, how many classworks you've had, how many tests or quizzes you've had, you could use that, but you don't need to use that column. All right, hopefully this helps. If you have questions about it at any time, we can set up a meeting and figure out if you're using it correctly.